this one. Maybe this one is better than the model. Last time we started at taking a function in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. Yes? And then and that was for the f of x. And then we started trying to figure out what the vertex of that particular function was. Yes? And we did one example on that, didn't we? Yeah? Completed the square and all of this. Okay. So one, we completed the square, but it was the easy one. I mean, not all the time the value of a is 1. The one we took, it was when the value of a was 1. So therefore, we were able to complete the square easy and then solve from there. Let's take a one where the value of a is not 1 and see how we complete the square and how we can solve it to find the intercept, to find the vertex. Okay? Consider, for example, f of x equal, say, 2x squared plus 4x, say, minus 3. And we are trying to figure out what the vertex of that particular equation. Yeah? Well, we said to find the vertex, we simply try to complete the square to make the equation look like f of x equal ax minus h squared plus k. And that will give us the vertex is equal to hk. So this is our A. We want to write the equation. This equation, we want to write it in this form. Okay, let's start. So f of x equal 2x squared plus 4x minus 3. And from there, we said our interest in this would be basically the x squared term and the x term. Those are the terms that I want to make perfect square. And last time we said, when we did this, we said x squared must be alone. It shouldn't have any number with it. But now it does have a 2 with it. What do I do with the 2? Well, the first step is I will factor 2 out from these two terms only. So I'm going to say 2 times, say, x squared plus 2x, and I'm going to leave a little space, put minus 3 over here, so I can complete the square. Now notice one thing. If the 4 is not divisible by 2, suppose this was a 3, then it will be 3 over 2. Yeah? You still have to factor whatever in front of x squared. Now, let's work with this. To complete the square on this one, we said we take this term, this number in front of x, we divide that by 2, and then we square the result. So far, so good. So let's do that. 2 divided by 2 is 1. We square 1, we get 1. So I'm going to add 1 to this. So now I have a perfect square, but I already added 1. To offset it, I'm going to subtract 1. Now notice all of this happened within the parentheses. Yes? The minus 1 is not going to go there. I'm doing it within what? The parentheses. Okay? So now, this is the same as 2 times. Now this is perfect square. That is x plus 1 square minus 1, and we have a minus 3 outside. So now I'm going to distribute this. I want it to look like that. So I'm going to multiply 2 times this without distributing. That's equal to, parentheses, x plus 1 squared minus 2 times 1 is 2 minus 3. So far, so good. So that's equal 2 times x plus 1 squared minus 5. So now we have written this in this format right there. Okay, so now what's the vertex? Always the opposite of what's inside the parentheses. So we have a plus 1. This is going to be a negative 1, comma. The y value will be a negative 5. So now we know the vertex of this particular parabola. Yes? So, what do you think? What does this vertex represent? Does it represent the maximum value of the vertex, of the parabola, or the minimum value of the parabola? How can I determine that? Okay, let's go back a few days ago. So now we said when we have a parabola, the parabola has 2 shapes. One is open upward like that, and one is open downward like that. Clear? The vertex of the parabola is either this point, where it's the lowest point, which means this would be the minimum if this was here, or this one, which is the highest point, or the maximum. Now, how do I determine which parabola of those two I have? Any idea? Negative. If A is negative or positive, that determines what kind of parabola I'm going to have. Yeah. So which one? Upward or downward now? What is A? How much is A? 2. And it is positive or negative? Positive, which means the parabola opens which way? Upward. So that means we have this parabola, right? So that means this point is the minimum value of that parabola. Okay. Clear? All right. So this is one way of doing this. There's another way. Let's go ahead and take a look at another way. Another way then we have, if the equation is given in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, then the vertex is the following. The vertex of the parabola is minus b over 2a, and then the function evaluated at minus b over 2a. So this is the formula for the vertex when the parabola is given in that format. Okay. So let's go ahead and find that vertex for this parabola. So the x value of the vertex is this way. Minus b over 2a. So all we need to do now is identify what B is, what A is. From the given, what is B? So minus B will be negative 4 over 2 times whatever A is. What is A? So 2 times 2 would be 4. So negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. And that's what we got just a second ago. Okay? How do I find the Y value of the vertex? The Y value of the vertex would be evaluating the function f at minus b over 2a. And we already know what minus b over 2a is, which is negative 1. So that means evaluating the function at negative 1. So far, so good. So that is equal to, when I evaluate the function at any point, I remove the x's and I replace them by parentheses, and then I fill in the parentheses by that point. So let's do that. So the function is 2, take the x out, replace it by parentheses, square, plus 4, take the x out, so far so good, minus 3. Now we're going to fill in the parentheses by the negative 1 given. Negative 1, negative. So now let's evaluate this. So negative 1 squared is 1. Yes? 1 times 2 is 2. Clear? Okay. Positive 4 times a negative 1 is negative 4. And then we have a minus 3 there. So 2 take away 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 take away negative 3 is, take away 3 is negative 5. So the vertex again is negative 1, negative 5. Clear? Any questions? So those are the two methods or the two forms of parabola that you could have. Okay, let's do some problem where we can apply those techniques and then see how we can solve these particular problems. Okay. It says Chanez owns and operates her own micro brewery. She has hired a consultant to analyze her business operation. The consultant tells her that her daily profits from the sale of X cases of beer are given by P of X equal minus X squared plus 120 X. It says find the vertex. Determine if the vertex is a maximum or minimum. Write the equation of the axis of the parabola. Compute the X and Y intercept and sketch the graph of the profit function. So we need to do all this good stuff for that particular function. Yes? So this lady hired a consultant to determine her profits in a business she's doing. And the consultant determined that the equation for her profit is represented by this particular equation, parabola, where X is the number of cases of beer she sells, and then P of X would be how much money she's making selling those beer. Okay. So the first step is to determine what the vertex is. So let's look at the vertex. So this equation or this parabola is given in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where c in this case is 0. Yep. So let's see. V is minus b over 2a, and then the value of the function at minus b over 2a. So now let's figure out what's the x value of the function. So the x value of the function is minus b over 2a, so minus b over 2a, and that is, what is b in this case? 120. b is the value or the number in front of x. So x is here, in front of x we have 120, so that's negative 120 divided by, now a is negative 1, yes? And 2 times negative 1 would be negative 2. So far so good. And then when I divide those two numbers, we end up with 60. 60, this number represents the number of cases. So we end up with 60 cases. Yes? Now the y value of the vertex would be simply evaluating the function. I put f in here, I should have put p because we have a p function. So let's put p in there. Evaluating the function p at minus b over 2x, which is p at, well, minus b over 2a, we determine it is 60. So 60, so that is equal to minus 60 squared plus 120 times 60. Substituting 60 for x. So that's equal minus 60 squared is 3600 plus 60 times 120 is 7200. Yeah. So that is going to give me 3600. And the formula talks about dollars. Did they specify it's dollar? Let me see. I didn't say. Well, I'm going to assume it is dollar. Or whatever money they use. So it is dollar. Yes? So what does that mean? Okay, so we determine what the vertex is. The next step is a vertex. So I'm going to say V is equal to 60, 3600. Is this point maximum or minimum? It is a maximum. Yes? Why? Because the A is negative, right? The graph is like this, and this is your vertex. So therefore, it is a maximum point. What does that mean when I read it? So I solved the word. What does that mean in terms of business? It means to achieve your maximum profit of $3,600, you must sell how many cases? 60. Now, if you sell 60 cases, that will be your maximum profit. If you sell less than 60 cases, that means you're not making the maximum profit. If you sell more than 60 cases, you're not making your maximum profit. You will make less profit than selling 60 cases. So in order to make profit, the maximum profit, you must sell 60 cases. And you may say, oh, what if I sell 100 cases? That doesn't mean you're going to make more money. Because to make 100 cases, you need to put employees to work to make it. And based on this calculation, perhaps the cost of employees over time and all of this will be more than the profit you're making. So therefore, making more and selling more does not mean you're going to make more profit. Okay? So your limit per day is 60. Clear? All right. So now, the next step is to, come on, takes forever to close. One of my fingers are dry. That's probably why. So, in order to make the maximum profit, so you have to sell 60 cases. Now, what is the axis of symmetry? Always, the axis of symmetry of a parabola, always is axis of symmetry, or the axis of the parabola is x equal. Always. X what? X equal. Equal to what? Equal the value of x in the vertex. Or in this case, minus b over 2a. Yeah? So what is it? 60. Clear? Okay, now, the next step is we've already found the vertex. We've already determined it's the maximum. The next step is to find the x and y intercept. Let's erase these because I don't need those no more. Let's erase this. That's all I need the equation. When the graph, the graph looks like this, we are interested in the points where the graph intercepts the x-axis and where the graph intercepts the y-axis. Where the graph intercepts the y-axis is this point, and that's called the y-intercept. And it is evaluated by substituting x equal to 0. So if you substitute x equals 0 in the equation, you will get the y-intercept. Clear? All right. So what is p of 0? Let me write it down. So in this case, since this is the p, this is x, we're looking at the p-intercept. In this case, the p-intercept would be 0 profit. Yes? Will be simply what? 0 profit. So when the profit is 0, let's go ahead and see, substitute 0 for x, we end up with negative 0 squared plus 120 times 0, and that's equal to simply what? 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. So now let's start with applying. So the intercept is 0, 0. That's the horizontal intercept. I mean the vertical intercept. Whether you call it p, y, whatever, still things. So now how do I find the x-intercept? To find the x-intercept, you set the function equal to 0. And then you solve for x. Okay? So the function is x minus x squared plus 120x equals 0. So now we will solve for x. This is a quadratic, and in a quadratic, step number 1, we have to put everything to one side. In other words, one side has everything, the other side will be 0. So now we will solve. Once you do that, once you put everything to one side, and it's already is, right? Then we factor this side. We factor the side that's not 0. How do I factor that? First, we need to look, do I have a common factor? Do I have a factor that is in every single term? For example, this factor, this term over here contains what? X and negative 1, right? And this term contains x and 120. Well, we can see there is no factor, common factor bigger than 1 between 120 and 1, right? But here we have x, here we have x. That means we do have a common factor of x. So x will be factored out. So when I factor out x, what's left in it? We had negative x squared. We took one x. How many x left? 1 minus x plus, if we take that x from here, what's left? 120. So far, so good. So now we do have two product of two numbers equal to 0, which indicates one of those must be 0. So the first one is x. So x is 0. If x is 0, then the whole thing is 0. Because 0 times a number is equal to 0. The other option is this factor is equal to 0. So I have minus x plus 120 equals 0. And if I isolate the x, let's take the x to the other side, we end up with 120 equals x. So the second intercept is x is 120. So 120, if I put 120 here, I get 120 minus 120, that would be 0. Yeah? So that's the x, y. Now, let's go ahead and graph the profit function. First point I want to consider is the vertex. So the vertex is 60 and 3600. Let's say 60 over here. And 3600, let's say it's over here somewhere. So that's your 60, that's your 3600, and this is the intercept, and this is the vertex. Clear? Now, we said the graph is going to go upward or downward? Downward, yes? So the graph is going to come and do like this. Let's see if this is what we got. Now, what is the intercept? The x values are 120 and 0. This is for x0. And 120 is double the amount. So that's 120 right there. Clear? And then now notice what happened. If you sell 120 cases, what's your profit? This is your profit. Yes? For 60, you get $3,600. But if you sell 120 cases, what's your profit? What's the number? For what? Over here. 0. So that means your profit is 0 if you sell 120 cases. That doesn't mean you're going to double your profit. Clear? Why? Because to make those extra 60 cases, you probably spend off more than your profit. And therefore, you lose your profit from the first 60 because of hiring people, the overtime and all of this stuff. Those are extra expenses that you may not be counting. Clear? Okay. Let's take a look at price versus, let's say this is a demand line, and this is something called supply versus the price. Yes? People demand more when the price is less. Yes? However, companies supply more when the price is simply what? High. Because I want to make more money. So if this is the demand and price equation, right? And this is your supply, they will probably meet at one certain point. That point is called the equilibrium point. Yes? On this range over here, we do have more demand than supply. Yes? More demand than supply. We call that shortage because the supply is not enough. Yeah? Especially with the cases when COVID started, then we start having shortage in these supplies, even though the price went up. In this area over here, we have more supply than what? Demand. And then, therefore, we have surplus. We have what? Surplus. Over here, the company is making, but people are still demanding because the company is not willing to make any more at lower price. Okay. Because this is where the price is. Price is here, company doesn't want to make good stuff, but the demand is way too high. Over here, the company is making a lot, but people are not going to buy at that price. There's no demand. Only the rich people maybe can afford whatever it is they sell. Now, at this particular point, it's called the equilibrium point. Why? Because the suppliers are happy with what they make. Yes? The people are happy with what they buy because they call it the price is right. So whatever the company makes, the people buy. So at the end of the day, they don't have no people asking for more, and they don't have extras in their warehouses. So they didn't. They went ahead and sold everything they make. Okay. So now let's take a look at a problem and see if we can solve that situation. It says, suppose that the price and demand for an item are related by. So the price and demand are related by this following equation. P equal 150 minus 6q squared. And where P is the price in dollar, and this is your demand function. Okay? And it says where P is the price in dollar and Q is the number of items demanded in hundreds. So if Q equal to 3 or 4, that means it is 300 or 400. It says suppose also that the price and supply are related by P equal 10 Q squared plus 2Q. And this is supply function. Now notice both of these are parabola. Yes? Both of these equations are parabola. However, this parabola is concave. Which way is going? Up or down? Down, because the number in front of the square is simply what? Negative. So it's going to start here at 150 and maybe go something like that. Oh no, I may go up or down, doesn't matter. Yes? But it's going to look going down this way. Yes? However, this one is it going up or down? It's going up. It starts at 0, and then both of them may meet at this point. Yes? Both of them meet at this point. What is that point called? Equilibrium point. Yes? All right, now, it says, find the equilibrium. So we need to determine what is that. Another way, which point, at what price should the company sell so the demand and the supply would be the same? Yes? That's it. Well, at this point exactly, notice the price is the same, and also the demand and supply are exactly the same. So to figure out what this point is, you can take the price of each one and set them equal to each other. Okay? So the price, this one must equal to this one, which means 10 Q squared plus 2Q equal to 150 minus 6 Q squared. So far, so good? Yeah? Again, this is a quadratic equation. We need to figure out what those are. To figure out what these are, to solve it, we need to move everything to one side. Okay? So let's bring this stuff to this side. So we have 10Q squared plus 2Q plus 6Q squared minus 150 equals 0. So far, so good? Simplifying this, we end up with 10Q squared plus 6Q squared, that's 16Q squared plus 2Q minus 150 equals 0. Yeah? Now, to solve this, a lot of ways to solve it, but sometimes using the formula is nice. So what is the formula? Q equal minus B plus or minus square root B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. That's called the quadratic equation formula. Yes? To solve the quadratic equation. Now let's apply this. So Q equal minus B. B is 2. So minus 2 plus or minus square root of B squared. So B is 4. Oops. B is 4 minus 4 times A. 16 times negative 150. All of this divided by 2 times 16. Yeah? And You just plug this in the calculator, and from there, you should get two numbers, and those numbers are Q equal 3 or Q equal negative 25 over 8. Now, because Q is a supply and demand, you can't have a negative supply or a negative demand. Yes? Unless you have a recall. We're not looking at that scenario. Yes? So this is not possible. So in order for equilibrium to be, then Q has to be 3. Another way, the supply should be 300 items, and the demand would be 300 items, and the price, P, would equal to, I'm going to take Q and substitute in either one of those to figure out what the price is. So we have 150 minus 6 times 3 squared, 150 minus SN9, 54. That's equal to 150, that's going to be 96. So the price is $96, and the demand and the supply would be 300, and this is the equilibrium points, or point. Any questions? Okay, again, that's it for today. Before you leave, I just want to